question is, do you or did you support the mask mandate? And would you like to just raise your hand if you did support the mandate? Well, I'll give you an opportunity. Do you not support the mask mandate? You may raise your hand to that. Vito, you're on the fence?
I'm not on any fence.
Very good, thank you. So, let me follow up with that question. Oh, this was a good one. With such a large money surplus, what are the obstacles to a reduction in property tax? Have at it. You got the mic first.
Yeah, this is probably not the best place to start being a freshman, but first hurdle is there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen and everybody's got an idea. Second hurdle is it's largely a local problem and you're asking the legislature to swat a fly with a sledgehammer, which I'm willing to do, but you're back to the chefs in the kitchen problem and you got 105 of them plus the governor. So there's a lot of ideas out there. I hope to see something that I get a chance to vote on, but again, that's largely directed by people in leadership and committee chairs. So get after it.
So maybe most of you are aware of this, but none of your property tax money goes to Boise. All of your property tax money that's collected is spent by the taxing districts. If you live in Kootenai County, it's all spent by the taxing districts in Kootenai County. The reason taxes are too high is because spending is too high. And the way you lower taxes is to lower spending. And there is no other solution. You can shift taxes, so you could pay sales tax instead of property tax, or you could pay income tax instead of property tax, or you could have, maybe we could have people in Washington pay our taxes or something. But
There you go, Doug. An amendment to your bill.
But the truth of the matter is, at the state level, revenue determines spending. So if we get a bunch of extra revenue like we have this year, we're looking at ways to cut taxes. At the county level, spending determines taxes, so it's just the opposite. So they set their budget, and I believe we have at least one county commissioner here. They set their budgets based on, and then they set the levy rate for your property based on that. And so, and the county commissioners have told us for years we have too many mandates on them, and that's something that I always tell them, tell me what you don't want to do anymore, and I'll sponsor the bill to take it away. But the simple answer is, if you want your taxes lowered, you got to quit voting for school levies and supplemental levies, bond issues, but it's going to impact those services, right? So you need to be aware. First lesson I learned in microeconomics was there ain't no such thing, or there is no such thing as a free lunch. So, but we do have some legislation that we hope that will rein in some of that spending by taking a little bit of charge of new growth, urban renewal districts, and things like that, that helps us to control spending at the city, county, and other taxing jurisdictions.
As a corollary to that, well, once again, the occupied zone, they've done some pretty silly things down there, but way back once upon a time, they actually passed something called Prop 13. And there's a few Californians in it. And that was one of the good things, but of course that's before things went off the cliff, the left cliff. So, are you familiar with what Prop 13 did, and still is doing amazingly? Would it be possible to have, at the state level, a Prop 13 type legislation introduced and, better yet, passed? How many of you do not know what Prop 13 is about? Okay, Prop 13 was you bought your house at this amount, and that set your tax rate. And that's where it stayed as long as you owned the house. When you sold the house and it went like that, the people who bought that house and you hopefully made some money on it, their tax rate was now set at the level at what they paid for it, and that's how it went. So those of you who have lived in your house for 47 years and you have no intention of selling it, your taxes would stay at that rate, particularly once you are on a limited income because you're retired and don't have a gold mine or a money tree. So that's the value of Prop 13. Have at it, if you choose to. That's the opt-out, Mike.
Okay.
There you go.
Some years ago in Idaho, we actually passed a 1% initiative. I don't know how many people were here when that happened, but we did. When it got to the legislature, they freaked because of what it would have done to budgets. So that's when we got the idea of the homeowner's exemption. And the homeowner's exemption is a tax shift. They need the money, so you shift it off the homeowners, you put it on the businesses. It's still the amount of money that they're going to get is the same. So it has a temporary benefit. Homeowners think they're doing okay with it because they save some money, but then that puts it on businesses and you pay more for the products and things you like in businesses. Thursday night, the chairman of Rev and Tax on House side was in my office and he showed me something. He's quite a guy, but he showed me a graph he had, and there was this orange line going up and all these other lines going like this. Well, he showed how when we cut income taxes in this state, it really did not affect revenue because you cut the taxes. Ronald Reagan proved that. I thought at different times we've seen that. President Trump proved that. If you can cut taxes, actually you increase commerce and taxes go up because you've got more people spending the money. And it's every time there's a transaction, the government's there for their piece of the pie. Kind of like the mafia did it. So anyway, so he showed this, and so basically we have tax cut, little downturns in the economy. It went back for like 20 years, but basically the state budget and state revenue are moving up at about 4%. There are a couple of different lines there. But here's this orange line. It kept bugging me. He sold this thing up and it's doing this. Well, that's the property tax line. That's moving up at 6%, and we all see that. We all pay more in taxes and property taxes. We're complaining that new people moving in are not paying for their services and things, and that's all part of it. And there are things, but it is a local tax because that's the one that the legislature can do the least about. It actually does generate. It's generated at the county level, and so to fix that, Senator Vick was absolutely right. You would have to cut spending. I will point out, too, that property tax, I think, is one of the worst taxes because property defines your freedom. A slave cannot own property. And so I joked for years that that communists are actually more honorable than our guys because they tell you don't own the property. People don't work very hard because they don't own it. The state owns it. Well, here, we're allowed to think we own it, but we have to get permission to do anything to our own property. If we stop paying the rent for 3 years, they're going to take it away from us. So I just wonder, I think maybe they kind of trick us into working really hard to keep the property up, and then when it's all said and done, you get old, your income is fixed, and then you can't make the property tax. You either have to sell it or move, something happens. So anyway, it is a difficult one, but it's the one that the state government has the least impact on. There are things we can do, but they're not necessarily the best. It is local in there, and that's a local decision. If you're going to have sheriffs and different things, and garbage services and different things, all these income from cities and county taxes and levies, and a lot of those things as well. But property taxes, something has to happen because as they're moving like this, it's continuing to get further and further from the state spending and state revenue. So it is a growing problem, and it's going to continue to grow until something happens. And there are people working on this. They're doing some things at the state level, but there again, it is a county government issue.
So I'm brand new on the tax and local government and tax committee in the Senate, and so I'll give you a new person's view of property tax because we're working on a bill right now, and I have a copy right here. It is, yes, it is a local issue. The spending begins at the local level, and the budgets are set at the local level, which set your levy rate. And the levy rate is used to determine what the property tax on your property will be. Please ignore the photographer in the hallway. It's just my loving husband of 42 years who puts up with all of this, and I'm gone for 3 months out of the year. And thank you to all the spouses of all of us, because our families really do get impacted by the 3 months, and this is not a part-time job. We're down in Boise for full-time, more than full-time for 3 months, and then it's at least a half-time job the whole rest of the year. And we get paid a phenomenally huge amount of money at $18,000 a year. So figure on that one, okay? So back to property tax. This is what I want you to know, is that yes, it's local and the budgets of the county and the city impact, the spending of the county and the city are direct impacts, and the schools, on your property tax. And so when you get the statement, look at every single line. You will see the school levies. You will see the NIC, the local college, community college impact to your property taxes. And please remember that Kootenai County is the only, North Idaho College is the only community college in the state that only has one county paying for it. The others have 2 or 3 counties paying for it. However, that I digress. I just wanted you to know you have to look at every single line to see where the costs are coming from that you have to cover with your property taxes. The state does have a role in setting the policy by which the counties and cities can use set the levy rate and what they can do, and that's what we're trying to do with this bill. The state has had an equation for years, but now we're trying to tweak the equation and make it more responsive to the rising property taxes because it's out of balance. So the new growth part of the value of the new growth will be considered toward reducing the growth of your property taxes. It may not give you a decrease in your property taxes, but they won't be growing as fast. And we want to get the graph that Representative Mendive was talking about, we want to get that a little bit closer to equal so the property taxes are not rising at a much higher rate than the population, than inflation, than all of that. So spending is important at the local level, and the services that you demand at the local level cost money. Just keep all of that in mind, especially those that have arrived here from outside the area, because we may or may not be offering you at the local level all the services that you had where you came from. But if you want lower property taxes and fees, you need to understand that government can't provide all of that without increasing your cost and increasing your property taxes. So some of it is driven by your needs and your desires. And those of you who came from California, there was a comment up here. Yes, there was Proposition 13, Don, but how many of the fees went up? Because that's what governments do. They may lower your taxes, but don't look over here because your fees are going up on everything. It all is an equalizer. One way or another, they're going to get the money. So look forward to explaining the details of this tax bill when we finalize it. Thank you.
And just in case that Mike doesn't get back to me, I know that both Senator Souza and I have commitments at 12:30. So thank you all for coming if I don't get a chance to get the mic again.
One of my fellow members of the House told me not too long ago that the best tax is the one paid by somebody else. Now that's funny, but it's true. We all want stuff that is paid by somebody else. We don't want to pay the tax, but we want the goodies. 36 cents out of every dollar that the state of Idaho spends in its budget comes from the federal government. Now, who could be against that? Except there is no money that's coming. All we're doing with that 36 cents is adding that onto the national debt. That money is debt. We are digging ourselves deeper and deeper into a hole. It's a credit card that we charge wildly on because somebody else is gonna pay it. We have to control our own consumption. We have turned our needs or our wants into needs. We need this, we need that. As I said before, it's not an issue of legislation, it's a matter of the heart. How selfish are we? We get 36 cents out of every dollar that we spend from other people, even if there was money. Is this fair to the residents of California who pay more money than they get back from the federal government? Is this fair to the citizens of New York? Regardless of their political persuasion, we are taking money from them to fund our wants, not our needs. We have to be a little more introspective as to what we want from our government. The more the government is able to give to us, the more it's able to take away from us as well.
Okay, Brent Regan, who is the chairman of the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, would like to say something.
Hi, as he said, I'm Brent Regan. I'm chairman of the Central Committee. Thank you all for coming and thank you for being involved. Seeing this many people really warms my heart, and it's good for our community. Everybody complains about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Who here pays too much in property tax? If you look on your property tax bill, you'll see 14 or 17 taxing districts. All those taxing districts have something in common. They all have elected board members. Each and every one of you could be one of those board members. Each and every one of you could have an influence on the amount of property tax you and your neighbors pay. Should you decide that you want to get involved, come see our committee. We have people that will help you. We will have people that will interview you. We have people that will train you. We will have people that will walk with you and help you to get elected to those boards. That is a feature that we have, and it's a service that we would like to provide. So anybody here who wants to run for one of those taxing districts, doesn't take a lot of time, but it'll give you the power to affect your taxes directly. Thank you very much.